go.
There we go. Cool. All right. Anybody ain't gonna answer Coach E? Anybody get 20K today? Let's see where I'm at. Oh, geez. All right. Let's not talk about that.
I got 15,000. By the time we're done, I'll have over 20.
I got
Oh, geez.
I got 24,150, and I still got to walk Taliban for 2 miles.
What are you
Dang.
slacking?
I had 25,000 on Sunday because I was walking hills hunting for elk, but not today. All right, Heidi's joining here quick too. All right, so let's go ahead and kick this off. Just remember before we get started, the biggest thing with this is meant to be like an interactive learning experience. So make sure that you guys chime in, comment. If you have questions, don't feel like you gotta raise your hand or anything. It's not class. So just interrupt me, jump in, and make this a fun learning environment. So obviously, what I want to talk to you guys about today is hacking your sleep. So taking advantage of how we can get not only longer sleep, but better quality of sleep, right? How we can help ourselves fall asleep faster, really all aspects of sleep. And I'll kind of relate it back to the book of the month when I talk about it here at the end, but let's go ahead and jump in here, and hopefully you guys can take some cool nuggets away from this that you can start applying. Because I know I can't remember his name, but he was in here with a baby, right? Where are you at? Somewhere.
Telfer, yeah.
Yeah, Telfer, there we go. Telfer as a baby. So this is kind of what inspired this whole conversation. But I, both in college and now that I have a 7-month-old, I have seen my sleep dwindle. And it's been something that I always have to come back to. So I'm going to kind of show you guys what I mean by that. So first things first. All right, this is a point for you guys to interact a little bit, but what do you guys think are some of the most like common problems or common things that we hear when we talk about our sleep? I'll give you one, but one is not getting enough of it, right? What are some other ones? Like why you guys are getting poor sleep. What was that?
Not being able to shut off your brain.
Yeah, not being able to shut off your brain, right? Laying there and you can't fall asleep. What'd you say, Mindy?
Anxiety.
Yeah, okay, that's another one. And that kind of leads to not being able to shut off your brain,
Yep.
right? There's 4 that I feel like through my experience with coaching that I've come across the most. And one of them is stress related. One of them is even all the time I'll hear people talk about, I got 8 hours of sleep last night and I still woke up feeling exhausted, right? Like, oh, I just need to catch up on my sleep, I think. So then they'll go and sleep for 10 hours on Saturday and then they're still lazy and feel like crap all day, right? That's one of them that I hear. Another, not sleeping enough, right? Not getting to bed on time, whatever it may cause, that's causing you to have not enough sleep or what you think is enough. Another one, people waking up in the middle of the night, right? Like, oh man, I wake up every 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes you're able to go right back to bed. Sometimes it's, what's up? Oh, anyways, yeah. So sometimes it's that I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep, or that they're just pissed off that they woke up 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night and they felt like it's because they had to pee or whatever reason, right? And then last one, and it kind of caters to the not getting enough sleep or enough hours, but it's not being able to fall asleep. And that's kind of where I relate back to that stress and that anxiousness and some of those things. When I come back to that, is there anything else I missed? Anybody in here that struggles with sleep and it's not one of those 4? If I hear silence, I'm going to assume I'm dead on. Okay, cool. So I want to kind of share what built up to me like taking so much interest in sleep and why I think it's so important. So it started when I was in college, but when I was in college, I was working at Match Gym. And I was working there 3 times a week, all in the mornings. I had to be there by 4:30. Our first class was at 5. I was a full-time student in college, and then I wrestled all 4 years, if you didn't know that as well. So I had wrestling practice afterwards till about 6:30, and I commuted to school 30 minutes. So I would get home roughly around 7 o'clock. And if I had something like a night class, every Monday I had a night class. So I wouldn't get home until 9 or 9:30, and I still had to be up at 4:30 the next day. And then if I wasn't working for Match Gym, I had morning practice on the other 2 days of the week at 6 a.m., had to commute. So I was up about 5, and wrestling tournaments every Saturday. So really the only day I felt like I would catch up on my sleep was Sundays. And I would sleep seriously from probably 10 at night on Saturday when we got home from a tournament until 10 or 11 the next day. And then my Sundays were my most unproductive day that I'd have. And I didn't really know why. I felt like Sundays were supposed to be a good day. I got all this sleep. I'm supposed to feel really good. So I actually started reading a big book, and it's going to come back to my book of the month. But for me, the biggest thing was, even when I got really good sleep, I still felt extremely exhausted, right? Like on Sundays, I'd sleep for 11 hours and wake up and feel like shit, like not feel like I wanted to get up, feel like I could have fallen right back asleep, but I knew I needed to get up and eat and some of those things. And one of the biggest things I turned to was finding out that our sleep goes in 90-minute intervals or 90-minute cycles. So this is a really big thing. I live by it every single day. There was some small hiccups when we first had our baby that I couldn't avoid, but now she sleeps through the night. So with this, these 90-minute sleep cycles are something that fall into our circadian rhythms. So a lot of times your coaches are probably talking to you a little bit about trying to develop routines, have a similar routine, time block your schedules, things like that, where we can start to our body can start to recognize those rhythms. And that's part of our circadian rhythms. And these sleep cycles are exactly part of that. So you have 5 cycles of sleep. So when you lay down at night, in about 90 minutes, you'll go through all 5 cycles of sleep. And in the first 30 minutes of that sleep, okay, that's when you're in your really light sleep. So when you wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like you woke up and it's because you had to pee, because you drank too much water, or you woke up in the middle of the night and you have no reason to tell why you woke up, or maybe you heard a little something, right? But you're waking up, that's usually your really light cycles of sleep. And you're in that state for about 30 minutes. And that's something really important to remember, because when we start thinking of these 90-minute cycles, that means the next 60 minutes, your body starts to drift into those really deep cycles of sleep. So it's cycles 3 through 5, essentially. And that's kind of what this graph is representing over there. But in that really deep cycle of sleep, that is essentially your hibernation state, right? That's like pissing off the angry bear that you woke up that was hibernating, right? So with this, when you're in that 60 minutes, that's the time where you don't want to be woken up, where you're in your deepest sleep. It should be hard to wake you up. And if you get woke up from that point, that's where you feel really groggy. You feel like you haven't gotten any sleep in general. And so what you can start doing to optimize that is think of your sleep as 1.5 to 2 hour increments. And why you think of it that way, right, is if I sleep for 90 minutes, what happens is at the end of that 90 minutes, you actually start to come back into that lighter cycle of sleep. So you start to come back into that part where we normally wake up, where you can wake up from something as easy as your partner turning in bed or a pen dropping, something like that. If you can wake yourself up during that time of your sleep, you're going to wake up feeling much more refreshed, because you just finished that really deep restorative part of your sleep, those cycles 3 through 5. So that kind of being said, is there anyone that is that wakes up in the middle of the night at all? I saw a couple nods. Okay, I see some hands, right?
I do.
Me.
Yep. Generally, for you guys, what I want you to start thinking about is how long you've been asleep. Because I would question that typically when you wake up in the middle of the night, it's somewhere between a 1.5 to 2 hour increment. So it's either like 1.5 hours to maybe right around 3 hours, maybe right around 4.5 hours. Somewhere around those increments are when you're waking up. And that's because you're coming into that really light cycle of sleep. So next time that happens, take a quick glance at your alarm clock, whatever it is, and see what time it is. And the biggest thing there is, if that's happening, that's okay. And we'll talk about kind of how to mitigate that so that hopefully you don't actually wake up from it, because it still pisses us off. Who wants to wake up in the middle of the night? Right. So that's one of our things,
I can't look
right?
at the alarm clock though.
What's that?
if I look at what time it is, I can't
gonna
get back
stress?
to sleep because then I'm thinking about how much time I have left to sleep.
I was
Okay.
gonna say the same thing.
Yeah. So what'd you say, Coach E?
I said that's the same thing that happens to me.
Yeah.
Matt,
Okay.
Since I started.
Now, yeah. Now I won't coach you to say like, hey, this is more just out of a curiosity thing, because I would guess to say that in that state, it's because you're actually in that really light cycle of sleep, which is a good thing. But the problem is, yeah, when you can't fall back asleep. So typically you'll fall right back asleep. And that's just because you're in that little self-conscious state and you fall right back asleep. But what I'm getting at is you're probably waking up during that really light cycle of sleep. So just know that that's roughly what's happening. So that's one of our things I want to tackle, right? Is that feeling exhausted. And this is something I'm going to come back to in multiple slides, but one way to really, really hack your sleep is set your alarm to fall within these sleep cycles. So for instance, if I lay down, if I know I wake up at 6:30 every morning for work, right? Or to start my day, I want to fall asleep within one of those 90-minute to 2-hour sleep cycles, because then I'll wake myself up in that really light cycle of sleep. And that's where you'll actually wake up, feel restored, feel like you're actually ready to tackle the day, and not feel like you have to spend the first hour of your day just trying to wake up, get caffeine in your system, all of those things. So when I was working for Matt, I mean, there's days I was getting like 4.5 hours of sleep, and I would still follow this to a T. And now I still suffered like injuries and stuff like that because I wasn't getting enough sleep. But I'll tell you how I felt, and my energy throughout the day was significantly changed when I started focusing on these 90-minute cycles. And basically what studies have shown is, because when you're waking yourself up in that hibernating state, you just interrupted your deepest sleep. You didn't get that cycle of sleep, so it was pretty much a waste. And now your body's trying to wake yourself up out of that whole first part of your morning. So it's just dragging you back for that whole start of your morning. So that's the biggest thing for this first hack, okay, is start focusing on trying to set your alarm within those 90-minute to 2-hour cycles. So again, if I know I'm waking up at 6:30, okay, I'm going to go to bed somewhere between, or try and fall asleep somewhere between 10:30 and 11. That gives me 8 to 7.5 hours, right? So hour and a half, 3, 4.5, 6, 7.5. That's 5 sleep cycles. So if you start thinking of your sleep as those 90-minute sleep cycles, you can almost telegraph when you need to wake up, and you'll be in that light cycle of sleep and feel a lot more refreshed and recharged going into your day. So definitely try that, okay? And if you try it, tell your coaches, because I want to hear about it, okay? It's something that gets me really excited. I'm way too jazzed up about this, all right? Second thing, okay, is we talked about not getting enough sleep, right? And to me, this one, I'll ask Coach E too, but to me, this one is nothing but a discipline. Okay. We talk about, hopefully your coaches have talked to you a little bit about trying to set a schedule or a time block, right? Matt's even had these conversations with me. But biggest thing with not getting enough sleep is you're not prioritizing your time typically, right? Now, if it's because you can't fall asleep, that's another issue that we're going to tackle. But if it's simply you're someone that, oh, when I lay down at night, I can fall asleep, but it's not that I'm not getting myself enough time to feel recharged and feel restored, then that's something where you need to come back to looking at the portions of your day, right? And how you can set aside and make a routine to set a diligent bedtime, right? It's something that I've had to work on. Coach E, how much sleep do you usually get?
3 to 6 hours. But
What's
it's
up?
3 to 6 hours, but it's 3 to 6 hard hours.
Yeah.
So
And-
that's my cycle. If I sleep more than
Yep.
7 hours, I'm sleepy all day.
Yeah. And
For me,
what's cool is, I'll talk about it when we get to the book in the end too, is, you know, science always recommends that everybody should, or, you know, everybody always says 8 hours of sleep. We need 8 hours of sleep. You should get 8 hours of sleep, right? How many times have we heard that growing up our whole life? The big thing is there's a lot of science to actually show that like typically as you get older, you don't need to sleep near as long. There's certain people that, yeah, when they start to sleep outside of 6 to 6.5, they actually feel that exactly like Eric's talking about. So it's all about finding your rhythms and what works best for you. Some people, like if you're insanely active, right, you might need 9, right? But you're still falling into those cycles of your sleep. So with not sleeping enough, it's one that I don't like to give a lot of excuse to, unless it's because you can't fall asleep, right? And we'll tackle stress here in a little bit and that anxiousness and some of those things. So just know, there are ways, talk to your coaches, but if you're struggling to find a routine and figure how the hell to get into bed and just get your bedtime started, talk to them about how to set up some of those, how to set up some time blocking and actually manage your time to get you in bed at a reasonable time. So we're not there at, midnight and we're like, oh shoot, I should have been in bed an hour and a half ago. So time blocking will be a big one. Make it a non-negotiable. It's something that I like to talk about. There's certain things in your day that should be non-negotiables. You're not going to miss this. You're going to do it regardless of where your time's at. So for me, one of those that I've started to really take home in, especially in the last month when I knew I was going to start talking about this, I wanted to be on spot, was my bedtime. Every night now it is between 10 and 10:30. I start winding down at 10 and I'm in bed somewhere between that 10 and 10:30 mark. And I know I'll fall asleep shortly after. So make that a big effort. Okay. And then focus again on those 90-minute sleep cycles. Just get your ass to bed. All right. So third thing, okay, is the constant waking. So this is when you're waking up multiple times, in the middle of the night, even if it's once or twice in the middle of the night. And this can typically be solved with a few different problems. So biggest first thing you should do is try and figure out what the root of that problem is. And I'll talk about what I think a few of them could be, right? First things first is I would bet that you're waking up in that light cycle of sleep. And one of these things is waking you up. Could be noise related. Like if you have TV on in the background and there's noise going on or music in the background, or you hear a car honk or go outside, right? Some of those you can't necessarily avoid. Could be movement related, right? So if you have your pet sleeping in your bed, your partner, right? If they toss and turn a lot, oftentimes that's something that if we're in that light cycle of sleep, they're going to pull us right out of there. So that is definitely culprit. Who lets their pet sleep in their bed? All right. I see Trina. I see Mindy. I see a few of you guys. I gotta say, I was guilty of this probably until we got 2 dogs, which was about a year ago. And we moved into our new house and I was getting woke up like 3 or 4 times a night because they sleep under my blankets. So they would get hot, they'd come out of the blankets, and then sure enough, they'd come scratch at the blankets again, right? I know Trina's told me about her cat doing something similar. So I would strongly urge you to kick those guys out of bed so you can get a better quality of sleep. It only takes a couple days to train them. Mindy, what were you going to say? Let's hear it.
So my cat already knows if it wakes me up, it's getting its ass kicked out. So it knows not to move to my feet. So
okay, see?
Train that girl.
See, now you just need to train everybody else on how to do that, or how to train their partner not to move and kick them in their sleep.
Oh, my
otherwise,
I smack him or something.
See, I was going to say, otherwise, kick your husband to the couch and tell him your coach said you need better sleep.
There you
all right? Because we all know the husbands are the only guilty ones there, and they probably snore too. Okay, but really, that is a very real thing. So if you're in that light cycle of sleep, remember, you're going to wake up pretty easily. So if you're in that light cycle of sleep, it doesn't take a whole lot to wake you up. So be mindful of that. And if you can start to eliminate some of those things, it can help. Put a pillow between you and your partner while you're sleeping if they move a lot, right? Something like that. Another thing, and this is the big one that I really wanted to touch on, was stress, right? We talk about shutting off our brain. Coach E said it, Mindy said it. I think a lot of us are culprit to this, even if it's not what we consider like a really stressful thing coming up, but we lay down and all of a sudden we can't shut our brain off. Right? We start thinking about, I need to run and get groceries tomorrow, and I need to do this and that and send this email, right? A big thing that you can do to aid to that stress, and there's a bunch of research behind it, is make a to-do list. But the important part about it is take it to bed with you. So you make that to-do list when you go lay down at night. And part of the reason is they talk about the psychological release from your brain to paper and seeing it on paper, that you don't have to keep thinking about it. So if Mindy, you're one of them, Eric, try it. So when you lay down at night, grab a notebook and just jot down, and it can be a little bit of journaling if you'd rather. But for me, it's every time I have high stress situations coming up, when I have like these big wrestling tournaments we're coaching and this sleep project that I'm giving you guys, it's something that I'll take something to bed with me, and you start journaling some of these things. And you can journal, you can make simple to-do lists. For me, it's literally 2 to 3 words, like email Matt, finish slide 3 of my PowerPoint. Like they're that simple, but it's that huge aspect of your mind literally seeing that on paper and being able to shut that off a little bit. And then let me take it one step farther. So if you're someone that wakes up in the middle of the night and same thing, your brain starts running again, guess what you got to do? Rinse and repeat. Do the same damn thing. Seriously, pull it right back out and jot it back down. Whatever the heck's keeping you awake, right? It's there's a lot of truth to it. So I would challenge you to try it. And then lastly, whose coaches are still on them about minutes of meditation? Who's got the most in here? I'll tell you, it's not me. I get about 5 minutes every day. Who gets more?
I do. I average anywhere from 10 to 30, but I got a couple clients that average at least 20.
Really?
I average probably about 20, 25.
Who's that, Mindy?
I recommend them to do it before bed. It helps you fall. I told Matt earlier, that's actually what helped me start falling asleep easier at night was meditating.
Yeah. To me, it's huge. And hopefully this isn't something that you've fallen out of practice with, because either Eric, Matt, or myself are on you about, hey, why aren't you meditating this week? Why aren't you doing anything there? And it can be as simple as breathing, right? I say that to everybody I'm talking about, but intentional breathing, right? In through your nose, out through your mouth, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out type of breathing. And it doesn't have to be, the ohms and that complete shut off from everything else. But it's with that minutes of meditation, use that before bed. Start incorporating that into your bedtime routine. If it's something that you already struggle with, like, I'm kind of sporadic with when I get my minutes of meditation, like start doing that right before bed. See if you notice a difference too with your stress, with your anxiousness. And if not, then you're journaling on top of it. Okay. So that's another one with the constant waking. And this will kind of come back to that can't fall asleep, but so stress will be in here, but a couple others that are really big to hit on. So this is for you guys that you lay down and you can't fall asleep, whether it is your brain running or, you feel wired or whatever the case may be. One of the best things that you can start doing is developing an actual routine for your sleep. And what I mean by that is I'm sure most of you already do 1 or 2 things before bed every night, whether it's like you shower every night before bed, you brush your teeth every night before bed, right? There's a couple of those things. What are a couple other things you guys are doing before bed? Stretch.
Yep.
One thing that I just realized with so every time you guys go to sleep, you're doing some kind of a routine, whether you think you're not or you are. So be intentional with it. And one thing that I noticed is so when I was taking rest days, I wasn't showering before I go to bed because I didn't sweat. I don't need to shower, whatever. Could be true, could not be true, whatever. Maybe I'm nasty. But the thing that I noticed was, one thing I noticed was that when I wasn't doing that, guys, I was actually not sleeping as good on my rest days because my body was so used to okay, you're taking a shower now, all of these things, it's in your circadian rhythm and it's your body telling you hey, yes, it's time to go to sleep. So when I wasn't doing that, it was disrupting my sleep pattern. So it's just those little things that you guys really have to pay attention to that could make or break how well you're sleeping.
It is. Yep. And it's like Matt said, it's having that intentionality behind it. Because when your brain recognizes what you're doing, it signals to your whole body a bunch of hormone release, right? You start releasing melatonin, right? Your cortisol starts to go down. Some of these big hormones start to regulate in a way that balances and sets you up for sleep. But your body starts to pick up on those cues, those things that you're doing regularly every night before bed when they're intentional and when they happen around the same time. So those are 2 big things. So start to find or start to pay attention to and put together 3 or 4 things that it is that you do before bed and make one of them something that's very relaxing, right? So whether that's reading a little bit, right? Read 10 pages of a book. It shouldn't take you very long, right? Or read for 10 minutes. But then, maybe it's you shower, you brush your teeth, you read a book, and you do your 5 minutes of breathing, right? There's 4 things, takes maybe 20 minutes to do all of that, 25 minutes, and I guarantee you're out like a light, right? But start setting that up and and the thing is making it an everyday routine, right? When you can make it an everyday thing, doesn't matter on a workout day, a rest day, a weekend day, okay? When you can start to make those 3 to 4 same things a part of your routine, your daily patterns of life, your body will start to signal like, oh, it's time for bed, all right? So Heidi's getting ready for bed. Here we go. She just did these 3 or 4 things for me, right? So start picking up on those things. Another big one that's a killer of sleep and can sometimes be a big factor here is blue light. So any of you go to bed watching TV or have a TV in your bedroom? If you do, I'm going to slap you.
We're definitely.
See a couple head nods. Okay. Nobody's brave enough to admit it, but that's okay. So
We have
big
it, but
thing-
I fall asleep immediately if the TV's off. Like,
okay.
but I don't
Yeah.
want the TV off, but if I turn it off, I'm asleep 2 minutes.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. So blue light, what it does is it actually, blue light's something that comes from the sun naturally, but it also comes from the lights emitted from our phones, from our computers, from our TVs. And what happens is when that comes into your eye, it basically sends a signal to your brain to stop the release of melatonin or slow it down. So even though it's nighttime and we should start getting drowsy, if we're crammed to a computer screen or our phone the whole time, we're just limiting our body's ability to release some of that melatonin and start getting us ready to fall asleep. So if it's a really bad and hard habit for you to kick right now, don't try and go all or nothing like, oh, I'm gonna quit it and I'm gonna leave it for an hour before I go to bed, right? But start working at how you can get that back farther and farther. Get it 30 minutes before you go to bed. The second you start your bedtime routine, take away that blue light, right? Shut off your TVs, put your phone away. And one cool thing I know if you have an iPhone, you can do it, but you can shut off your blue light in your settings. It's called nighttime mode. You can turn it on. You'll notice your phone turns into a really red hue. And it's basically a warmer color and it doesn't have near that much strain on your eye. So that's something that you can make note of as well. Another one, stress. I'm just going to come back to it because it's a big one, but if you can't fall asleep, try that. Some of your meditation, create some of those to-do lists, try a little bit of journaling, but get some stuff down on paper so that your brain can make that connection that you don't have to keep thinking about it. And there is one other thing, a big one that when we've chronically exposed ourselves to staying up late and seeing blue light emissions and things like that, there are options to supplement in a way, right? There's options to have a small dose of melatonin. I think you'll notice you find really deep sleep when you can do that. There's teas, right, that have chamomile and things like that that can help you fall asleep. Some people like essential oils and diffusers, right? Some of your things, I believe lavender is one of those that can help you fall asleep. It's supposed to be calming, right? So there's things like that. And the cool thing is, and if Matt wants to talk about it a little bit more too, he can, but Body Ops has its own product called Lights Out that if you guys feel that melatonin is something you would need to supplement with, that you can certainly talk to Matt a little bit more about because their product's really cool. And it's a mix of not only a melatonin product, but a lot of those natural herbs and stuff that we see in some of those teas. So like your chamomile and some other roots and things like that. But it's called Lights Out. You guys can see it there. I don't know, Matt, if you wanted to break it down anymore, but
it's a thermogenic and it's a fat burner too while you
Yep.
sleep. It works. I'm telling you right now, it works.
Yeah, Eric's been taking it. He's like, man, that thing got me lights out. My wife's been taking it. She loves it.
Yeah.
Julie has been taking it. She says normally she's super cold at night. This thing is warming her up and helping her sleep better. Pretty much anybody that's taken it has really, really liked it. So I think Angelo had issues with sleeping. I think he's sleeping better now too. Maybe he can start talking about that. So again, I'm not here to like, yeah. Go ahead and talk a little bit, Angelo.
Hey, Matt,
Well-
real quick.
Yeah,
Anybody who takes it for the first time, do not start with the suggested dose. Start with one.
right. Start with just
Yeah.
one. Yep.
Because it told me to start with two, and I feel
I
like
forgot to tell him.
first 2 days.
Yeah.
Then I adjusted to it.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I forgot to tell. And yeah, anytime you, anything, especially sleep, anything really supplemental wise, you always want to start off kind of like a half a dose first, just to see how your body's going to react. Not like there's going to be some bad reaction, but you don't want to overdo it. So you give your body some time to adjust to that. So, and that's anything. I mean, especially when it comes to like a fat burner or a sleep aid, but anything in general.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Angela?
Sorry. Well, for me, it was a game changer, really. Matt knows last spring, my mother had passed away. And one of the last times she had opened her eyes was around 2:40 in the morning. So for a period of 6 or 7 months, no matter what time I went to sleep, I was waking up between 2:30 and 2:40 every morning. So at that point, Matt recommended a different product, which I took for a couple of weeks, didn't really help me. So I stopped. Then like 3 weeks ago, I got the lights out. I'm still on just one per night, but I take it. I'm asleep by 10:30, 11:45, and I'm not waking up the next morning till 6:30.
How long does it
So
take
for
to
me-
kick in usually?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I take it as part of my nighttime routine, shower,
There we go.
brush
Yep.
teeth, put out my clothes for the next day, whatever it is. So my head hits pillow and I'm probably asleep within 20 minutes, which is great for me because usually I'm a tosser and a turner.
Yep.
So it definitely made a difference for me. Plus I have kicked the dog out of the bed because she
Hey,
also
look at
sleeps.
that.
She sleeps under the covers too, was constantly kicking and scratching me while I was trying to sleep.
Yep.
But the lights out definitely helped me. I'm actually probably going to be ordering a bottle for one of my brothers who has a problem sleeping, but we'll see. But it definitely made a difference for me.
So
And I'm not waking up tired. I'm waking up feeling rested, which I haven't had in a long time.
yeah, now you're gonna add those 90-minute sleep cycles in there too, huh?
Got it.
All right, boom. So I only got a couple other things, but yeah, I mean, it's seriously something to consider, especially if you feel like you've done a lot of these things, right? I've tried journaling. I can't seem to shut my brain off. I've taken my phone and my TV away. It's always an option because there are instances where your body's not creating enough melatonin and not being able to release some of that because we're so far out of sync with our circadian rhythms that our body's not signaling some of those cues for those hormonal releases. So I kind of want to finish on this point, and it's just almost a side piece to everything that I was talking about, but some of the biggest killers to our sleep quality, and I'll hone in on it again. Stress is always going to be a big one. So managing your stress is something that is super important, not only for your sleep, but also for, right? A lot of us are trying to lose weight, are trying to drop fat. When you're in a high stress situation or not getting much sleep, that causes stress as well. It puts your body in that fight or flight state, right? It's that first thing we learn in basic psychology. But when we're in that fight or flight state, your body goes into that stressed out state where it's in defense mode. And part of your body's defenses is to hold on to fat for dear life. It's the same reason why a lot of us, we start out and we're not losing weight because we're way under eating, right? A lot of us, your coaches have actually brought your calories up and then started bringing you back down, right? So with that, that's part of that same signal is your body sees that as a stressor. So it wants to hold on to fat. And that's the number one thing we see. So fixing your sleep can be a big key to that as well. Okay. Another one, alcohol or large meals right before bed. A lot of people, you'll hear people say that, oh, I'll drink a glass of whiskey before I go to bed, right? Because it helps put me to sleep. Something like that. Oh, I have a beer before I go to bed. I hope that's none of you guys, because you guys are all making the right health choices and changes, right? But same thing with large meals. Alcohol, actually, what it does make you drowsy, but it shuts off your ability to fall into those 3, 4, and 5, those really deep cycles of sleep. So you're not getting any of your restorative sleep. So that's why night where you've drank too much on New Year's, you sleep all day the next day and still don't feel great, right? You still feel tired. Same thing happens when we have really large meals before bed, right? You have a really large meal before bed, 30 minutes before you try and go to sleep. Your body is sitting there digesting that the first 2-3 hours you're asleep, right? So try and push those back a couple hours before bed. That's just a good habit to be in. Caffeine. Is there anyone in here that thinks that they can drink a cup of coffee and then pretty much go to bed? Because I know I hear people say that. But there's some of those people out there that are like, oh, I see Amanda shaking her head down there.
I do
There's-
it a lot. I do it a lot.
Yeah.
That Walker is weird.
So here's the thing. There's like you can, I mean, it happens, but there's definitely instances where what's happening is, I mean, obviously we know caffeine's a stimulant. It is a thermogenic too, so it does help burn fat. Okay. But on top of that is caffeine kind of has a similar, can have a similar reaction that like alcohol does, where it limits our ability to get into our REM sleep, our really, really deep sleep. So we're in that lighter cycle of sleep and we're just repeating those bouts, those 30-minute bouts of lighter sleep. So I would limit that, right? When you start getting into your later afternoon, try it, even if you think you're someone that already gets pretty good sleep. See if you get a deeper sleep or if you feel more rested. Lastly is we talked about this a couple times, but try and optimize your circadian rhythms, right? So really all that is, a really easy way of dumbing that down is the closer you can have your day-to-day routine, the better you're going to sleep, the better you're going to feel, the better your body is going to feel all throughout the day, right? When you have sporadic workout times, sporadic bedtimes, sporadic wake up times, your circadian rhythms are all out of whack. So when you can start controlling one thing at a time, like start with one small thing, wake up around within like an hour of the same time every day and start there. Don't worry about when you fall asleep and all the other outcomes of your day, but start with something small like that. And then you'll start to notice that you can get your circadian rhythms in sync. You can start scheduling some of those things out. So talking about circadian rhythms a little bit and those 90-minute sleep cycles that I kind of circled to in the beginning. The book of the month is called Sleep by Nick Littlehales. He talks about the myth of 8 hours, okay, where not everybody needs 8 hours of sleep. He talks about napping, if you have those opportunities and how they can be super, super beneficial. And if you can, how to optimize your naps and make them beneficial. And then essentially recharging your body and mind. And what he means by that is it's optimizing yourself by falling into those 90-minute sleep cycles that I was talking about. So again, I'm going to circle back to it. Try, for the next week or so, try and sit down. And when you lay down at night, set your alarm to be somewhere within one of those 90 to 2 hours cycles so that you're waking up in that lighter cycle of sleep, and see if you notice a difference when you wake up. See if it's consistent that every time you wake up, you feel pretty refreshed and recharged. Because some people I talk to, right, one night they wake up the next day and they feel great. And the next day they got more sleep and they feel like crap. So that can help limit some of that. He talks about other ways of enhancing your sleep, things like choosing the right mattress, how you can improve even a really crappy mattress that you're stuck with, things like that. Talks about how to make your room a sleeping environment, right? Getting it as dark as you can, things that you can do there. And then one that he circles back to that I took so much, I miss it so much, was napping. In college, I did it all the time. But if you have the opportunities to do it, especially on weekends, he talks about ways to make them efficient. And it's essentially following those same sleep cycles. If you take a nap for less than 30 minutes or more than 90, so that you don't wake yourself up in that really deep cycle of sleep. So I'm giving you some of those key hacks. So again, book of the month, it's a really easy read. It's about 140 pages. Words are pretty big. Okay. So you don't have a ton of actual reading to get to. I covered it in like a week and a half, and I don't read very fast. So you should definitely check it out. It's on Amazon. It might even be on Audible. You want to check for me, Coach E?
Just downloaded it on Audible.
Boom. All right. And then other than that, what do you guys think? Have any of you heard of sleeping in those 90-minute sleep cycles, or is this pretty new to everybody?
Can you break down what that exactly means? Because I'm still kind of confused on it. Like, honestly, it was the first time I ever heard of it. So
Yep.
I talked to you, like, how do you sleep in 90, like, because you go to bed, you sleep for 6 to 8 hours. Like, what are you talking about, a 90-minute sleep cycle?
So take 90 minutes times 4, right? So you go through a full sleep cycle in 90 minutes. So you go, let me find that slide. Okay, here we go. So you can kind of see it. So in that first 30 minutes, you're in that stage 1 and 2 of your sleep. And then in the next 60, so from 30 minutes to 90 minutes, those next 60, your body transitions from stages 3, 4, and 5. And stage 3 and 4 are your deepest sleep. It's where all your recovery happens when you have sore muscles, all of that stuff. And then that REM cycle that you see is stage 5. That's actually where your body starts to come out of the deep sleep and go back to stage 1. And normally we never notice it. You just keep repeating that cycle and you never wake up from it. And so what you start doing to optimize that is you want to wake yourself up when you're in that stage 1 or stage 2, right? So
How would
how would you
why
do
would
that?
I-
Is that what you're getting to?
No, why would I purposely wake myself up in the middle of the night?
No, you're not. You're not.
Okay.
No, so okay. Let me clean this up. So
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
hopefully I'm not the only one that's like dumb, man. I might be the only one that don't get it.
so sleep. If you slept for 6 hours, you just slept for 4 sleep cycles, right? And at 6 hours, you should be back around stage 1. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So-
then if you
So it's more like if I know I'm only gonna get a certain amount of sleep, I try to time it out so I'm within that 90-minute sleep cycle and I hit the one where I want to wake up on, like the time
yeah,
that I
so
want
you
to wake
just
up.
you just start adding 90 minutes at a time. Like if I lay down at 10 at night, 11:30 would be one. I'm not setting an alarm until if I lay down at 10. If I set an alarm for 5:30 in the morning, that's 7.5 hours. I would have finished exactly right around 5 sleep cycles. And if I wake up right around 5:30, I'll be in that lighter cycle of sleep.
Okay, so if I do go to bed, because that's about what time I go to bed. So if I go to bed if I'm asleep by 10:30, if I wake up at 5:30, that's like the optimal. But if I woke up at 5, I'd be in a heavier sleep cycle.
Yep. So and that's kind of what I'm getting at. That's why, that's why some people, if they have no idea about this, right? And they just, I'm going to try and I wake up at 6 o'clock every morning, but they pay no attention to what time they fall asleep. Sometimes they might wake up and feel like, hey, you know what? I feel pretty good this morning. And other mornings you wake up and you feel like you freaking got hit by a truck, like you can't keep your eyes open. You want to hit snooze 100 times. You feel like you need 3 cups of coffee. And that's usually because you woke yourself up somewhere in between this stage 3 to stage 5 of your sleep. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that actually makes sense, especially to the fact where most of us, like, I don't know, I know I'm not the only one. You wake up, like, let's say you gotta go to the bathroom. Like my bedtime or my wake up time is 5:30. I wake up at 5. I gotta go to the bathroom. I actually feel pretty good when I wake up,
Yeah.
but I'm like, hey, I still got 30 minutes. I get to sleep, right? Just out
Yeah.
of like whatever. I go back to sleep and I wake up feeling like shit, right?
Yeah,
So-
exactly that.
That
That's-
makes sense.
So what's happening is when you wake up because you feel like you got to pee, it's because you're actually you already hit your lighter cycle of sleep and your body naturally woke you up. It's like, hey, go pee. But now you're going to go back to sleep and you're going to hit 30, 40 minutes of it. And you started actually falling right back into that. You woke yourself up right when you started hitting that stage 3, stage 4, and you're getting into that really deep sleep. Now you feel like a freaking zombie.
So if that's the case, it's actually better to just stay awake at that point.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's actually
that's good to
better.
know.
And it's something you have to fight mentally a little bit, right? Because it's like, damn, I could go back to sleep for 45 minutes. But it's something that you can fight a little bit. Take your time waking up then, right? Relax, do some of your breathing, go fill out your spreadsheet, right? Start your morning a little early because you actually feel refreshed already.
I find I do that naturally, and then that's when I just like jump in the shower and get
Yep.
the day.
It's huge. And that's the thing is most people don't hopefully this helps open your eyes to that that's actually exactly what's happening is your body's essentially, you're coming into that really light cycle of sleep and it's telling you to wake the hell up. And then of course you're not going to be feel like $1 million, like, whoa, I feels like 10 o'clock in the morning. But if you've noticed and you fall back asleep, then you feel way worse than you did, when you originally woke up.
One thing I do, Walker,
Yeah.
I live by myself, so it's easier for me to do this. If I get up like that, the way I stay up, I just turn all the lights on in the house.
Yep.
Because then
And
once the
that's-
light cycles back to you talking about the blue light. Once I see all the lights, especially in this time of year, it's easier for everybody to be lazy
Yeah.
earlier in the evening. You know what I mean? It's getting dark at 5 o'clock and sun don't come out till 8. So it's easy.
Yeah.
So I turn on all the lights right away. In the spring and the summer, when I go to sleep, because I turn all my lights off in the house, I open my blinds so the sun wakes me up.
Yep.
That's what helps me.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. And that's all circles back to, your circadian rhythms, like we were talking earlier. Like your body wants to get up and it wants you to wake up and feel good. And that's why you get signaled to essentially wake up. Your melatonin starts dropping. Cortisol is something that helps pull us awake out of our sleep, and all that stuff happens. But a lot of that happens with blue light. And it's the same reason why we don't want it right before we go to bed. So yeah, when you wake up and it's that middle of the night thing, flip the lights on, get rolling a little bit, move around a little bit, fight that small urge to say, I could sleep for 20, 30, 40 more minutes, and see how you feel. See if you notice that difference, because it's a real thing. And essentially what you're doing is going back to sleep, and you're going to wake up in that hibernation state that they call it, those cycles 3 to 5.
Walker, the thing is, it'll be easier for you to go to sleep that night.
Yeah.
If you have a day where you don't have as much to do and you're allowed to take a nap, it'll make you appreciate your nap that afternoon.
Yep.
I appreciated my nap this afternoon. So if I do, because I do sometimes wake up at like 4 a.m, and I'm flexible that I have a pretty, I don't have to be at a start work at a certain time every morning. So if I do wake up at 4, you're saying it's better to then just set my alarm for 90 minutes out versus maybe I was going to wake up at 5, but it'd be better to go 5:30.
Yep, that's exactly it. So if you're going to go back to sleep, if you're not going to get really a full 90, then you're going to end up waking yourself up on that really deep cycle of sleep. But if you can go back to sleep for 90, 100 more minutes and wake yourself up in that really light cycle again, then yeah, now you just got a full another deep cycle of sleep, all that restorative stuff that happens, and you'll still feel good. Yeah.
The only thing we didn't talk about is nicotine.
Yeah.
So, we might want to add that to the list of try not to do too soon before bed.
Add it right here, right? Killers of sleep quality. Just like alcohol, it's a stimulant. Just like alcohol, just like caffeine, nicotine's a stimulant. So yeah, it's definitely one to add and to be thinking about, right? If you do smoke or anything like that, see if you can limit them before you get right before your bedtime, right? My mom was a smoker. She smokes one every night before bed, and I've tried to break her for it for years. But it's a stimulant. So even if she thinks it relaxes her and puts her to sleep, it does, but she's avoiding a lot of that deep restorative good sleep because that nicotine, that stimulant.
Yeah, I've been off nicotine now for 7 weeks. I've been
Hey, nice.
Cigarettes for 3 years, but I went to a Nick stick, and that also I think has helped with the sleep and a bunch of other things too. So I just wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be done in like 2 minutes. Okay.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Sorry, I'm using a classroom to do this in, so they're wanting to clean it. But hopefully, right, that this was something. Hopefully I challenged you a little bit, right? And this isn't something that you've got to hear of, like Matt was just saying. Hopefully we cleared that up too, but I challenge you to utilize that. Whether you get good sleep or not, I guarantee you can have more consistent energy in the way that you wake up and you feel if you can hone in on those sleep cycles. So just start thinking of you're sleeping at those 90 minutes at a time. Time yourself up and wake up in those light cycles of sleep. So anybody got anything? Anything else?
No, great topic. Thank you.
All right, sweet.
Because I didn't know that, and that's probably a reason why.
Yep, good topic this week. Walker.
Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely.
I'm not joking when it's something that I've lived by since the day I read it and started implementing it. And I made my wife start implementing it. And now she's like, we'll lay down at night and she's like, oh, you gotta be up before me. You better get to sleep. Your 90 minutes isn't going to be, it almost makes fun of me, but it's so true, because I feel so much better. So, and it's the same thing for her. So, and we actually use it to, wake up But we know Kensley, our daughter, she wakes up almost 6:30 every day. So we'll time our sleep cycles and go to bed at a time where we can wake up in our light cycle sleep, but before Kensley does, so we can get our day started before her. So I'm usually up around 6, gives me 30 minutes to do what I need to do before our daughter. Some of those things. Optimize it, optimize your sleep. But other than that, thank you guys for
Thank
being an
you.
interactive group. Yeah, hopefully it was something cool. Take it away.
It was. Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks,
Yep.
Walker.
All right, let me see if I can stop recording this.
All right, good night, everybody.
See you
Good night,
guys.
guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
I gotta get off here too. I'll see y'all later.
See ya.
I stopped recording. I think
Okay.
it'll download on my computer.
Oh, sweet.